Attention UFC fans, get ready to relive the unforgettable stories behind two of the most memorable UFC rivalries of all time. It all goes down tomorrow night during UFC Rivals on A&E.
Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to Duality 7X. I'm your host Shiraz. I want to talk a little bit about the WWE, primarily about CM Punk. Yes, and it has to do with MMA. You're probably asking yourself, been there, done that? Are we doing this all over again? Like, what's going on exactly? Well, let me explain here. So CM Punk may have just revealed a lot more about his future without actually saying anything at all. And in fact, if you guys caught whim of it, you guys know what I'm talking about. If not, let me explain. I'll provide you some context. In fact, CM Punk has been absent as of recent from the WWE. There's also um, there was also some news that I read about AJ Lee possibly not returning to the WWE. And this is not bad, guys. This is not like they had another falling out with Hunter and the brass of the WWE. No, it's nothing of the sort. In fact, I think AJ is just pursuing perhaps maybe other interests. And she came back briefly. She fought, Becky Lynch, if you guys remember, not too long ago. But let's just talk about CM Punk here for a second, because yes, I mean, CM Punk has been absent from WWE television for like the last 2 months, and all of a sudden he pops right back up, but in the world of MMA, which is, I'm not going to say too much of a coincidence, but I don't, I like, you guys have to understand, first of all, CM Punk is an amazing orator. Like, he speaks quite eloquently. He knows how to articulate his sentences better than some broadcasters that are out there. So naturally, when you have the gift of gab and you're great on the mic, excuse me, people are going to want to retain your services. And so that's kind of what's happening here. He's obviously not coming back as a combatant. He's not coming back as a fighter, as per se, but in a different fashion, right? And so he recently resurfaced on A&E's UFC Rivals, alongside some legendary names such as Michael Bisping, Misha Tate, Ken Shamrock, to name a few. And then just days later, he was returning to Cage Fury Fighting Championship broadcast team in Illinois, in his hometown. So I know a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions about this. If CM Punk was preparing for an immediate WWE return, he would really be making, would he really be making all of these kind of outside appearances right now? Does that really make sense? Because the timing here is really interesting, right? I mean, for Punk to break his silence and to start promoting UFC Rivals, which, if you're not aware, focuses on promoting a lot of iconic rivalries in UFC history, including the likes of like George St. Pierre versus like Matt Sierra. If you guys remember, that was a classic battle. Matt Serra, GSP, some of my all-time favorites. And then, of course, Chuck Liddell, the Iceman versus Tito Ortiz. And on the surface right now, it's just like a promotional appearance, right? But when you're talking about the likes of CM Punk, almost nothing is ever viewed as just an appearance. So fans pay very close attention to this. You guys are amazing because you guys are combing social media like nobody's business, and you're able to pick out all these little things. And that's what kind of comes to light. That's what goes viral. And the next thing you know, guys like me are talking about it, right? So, I mean, at first, people were like, wait a minute, what's going on here? CM Punk talking about UFC? Where, and if you guys know, like, CM Punk had a brief stint in the UFC as a combatant. He didn't fare too well. But that said, he didn't leave on bad terms. He has a lot of good relationships. He has a good relationship with Dana White, and some others as well, in the upper brass of UFC. So the fact that he's now in the folds of WWE again, I mean, I was kind of wondering, do you think they'll bring the likes of CM Punk back, perhaps maybe to like in a broadcast fashion, to start calling some of those matches? Because I mean, everybody loves to hear him talk. He's great on the mic, as I mentioned. So why not, right? So now WWE fans are watching his every move, especially because of his absence. And since we haven't really seen him or his wife, AJ Lee, that I alluded to earlier, since WrestleMania, I mean, in WrestleMania, CM Punk lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Roman Reigns, right, in the main event. And then he appeared the following night on Raw. He accepted the loss, and then he found himself face to face with legendary Cody Rhodes, right? So Rhodes essentially left the door open for a future undisputed WWE Championship match. And then Punk vanishes. No follow-up, no storyline progression. You're not hearing, the likes of Seth Rollins, chiming in and, like, kind of jabbing at him, or Drew McIntyre saying something about him. No, there's no return date on CM Punk's, uh, like, when is he going to be coming back to the WWE? No one knows, right? So there's nothing, absolutely nothing. And so that in itself, guys, creates speculation, right? Because then everyone's talking about it. And then people start to ask, well, the WWE is not releasing any information. If he hasn't been released by the WWE, if he hasn't been fired or what have you, then he must be injured. But there's nothing. There's just nothing out there on social media to to quantify that, right? So was the WWE saving him? I mean, is there a bigger angle plan perhaps? I mean, so fans including myself are trying to connect the dots, and we're trying to figure out what's going on here. So I mean, where I think it gets a little bit interesting is that most people are looking at Punk's WWE absence, and they're wanting to know what all is CM Punk doing, not doing in his absence, right? Because that's where you can start to connect the dots and to be able to determine if CM Punk potentially is moving on past the WWE, or has he found a new gig, or is there a storyline that's brewing that we can try to get a little bit of glimpse into what potentially might be coming down in the future, right? So that's important, right? So look, Punk in Punk himself has always been in a very he's always lived in this unique kind of space, where it's surrounded by mystery and intrigue, and everyone's always excited about news related to Punk. So he is one of the very few performers who became super, super massive in professional wrestling. He became a star, and he's always kind of immersing himself into the world of MMA. He's always liked that environment. He's always stepped into that environment. As I alluded to earlier, he even tried to compete as a fighter in the UFC. And so, look, most wrestlers talk about fighting. Punk actually did it. Now, yeah, he didn't fare well in the UFC. I mean, he tried, and he worked with some really good teams within the UFC, and some good fighters. And, uh, you know, his performance, to say the least, is questionable. I mean, people have, I mean, he didn't do the best, but he didn't do absolutely horrible either. He lost. He lost, right? He lost his matches. And, you know, you can't really hate on him for that, because a lot of people talk a lot of, people talk a big game, especially in the fighting business. But at the end of the day, he's one guy who actually did it. He did it. You know, he had the fortitude to go in there into the octagon and put his body on the line, where many other people just talk, 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 right? So I mean, that connection in itself has never really gone away, nor will it ever go away. So when he appears on the UFC Rivals and then returns to commentary for, like, the cage fighting championship in Illinois, it feels less like a random booking and more like somebody who's kind of reconnecting with his identity, right? Now, the question you're probably asking then is, well, if that's the case, then are we do we anticipate any news coming down from the WWE that Punk is done, that he's perhaps maybe leaving the WWE? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that's a story at all. In fact, I think the opposite, if anything, because I think the WWE is quite comfortable enough with Punk's current status. I mean, I think they really like him, and they're allowing him to make, these appearances. They know that the next major WWE program isn't starting yet, so there's some time. And that's a very different situation from a wrestler who's about to be inserted into a very major weekly storyline, right? So if Punk was scheduled, say for instance, to return next Monday on Raw and immediately began like a championship feud with somebody, then obviously the WWE would likely want all the attention to be focused on that and just that. So that tells me that the WWE is invested into Punk, and they're invested into more of a long-term kind of a storyline with him, right? So, and when the WWE plays long games with, people like CM Punk, it's usually because they believe there's a major payoff waiting down the road. And so that's the thing that I think we need to kind of understand and try to read between the lines, because the biggest winner from this hiatus may actually be CM Punk himself. I mean, just think about it, right? I mean, for years he's, one of the biggest criticisms surrounding Punk was overexposure whenever whenever he was like heavily featured, right? People debated his promos, people debated him, people debated his matches, people started to scrutinize and criticize every single maneuver and move that he made inside the squared circle, right? But absence in itself creates value, and the longer a star stays away, the more anticipation builds for that particular individual. That's wrestling 101, guys, and maybe that's marketing 101. But the WWE, unlike any other people, the WWE knows how to market. They know how to capitalize on these kind of storylines, right? So every week, Punk isn't there. Fans are going to start to question the same question. Is he coming back? And maybe you'll start to hear more CM Punk fan chants happening, right? So while Punk gets to stay visible through projects like UFC Rivals and cage fighting, without exhausting his WWE character, that's a pretty smart balance. I mean, you can't hate on him for wanting to do that. Look at guys like Arman Sarukian. He's an active UFC fighter, but in the meantime, he's out there on social media. He's creating a social media presence. He's doing kick streams with a lot of big YouTubers and kick streamers. And then he's also competing in RAF, Real American Freestyle Wrestling. So he tries to keep himself busy. He keeps himself out there. His name is out there. And that's exactly what Punk is doing as well, too. Now, you don't keep a star like CM Punk off of television indefinitely until there's a reason to bring him into the folds of a potential big storyline, which I think could be happening. It could be Cody Rhodes. I don't know. There's a big question mark surrounding that. But that confrontation after WrestleMania is still kind of hanging there with him and Rhodes. I don't know if it's going to be another title program. I mean, it's very possible. But I mean, whatever the plan is, guys, honestly, the WWE could be waiting for a major premium live event to kind of maximize that impact, and that in itself wouldn't surprise me either. I know you're going to get guys like Seth Rollins and other folks are going to be nipping at his heels and kind of maybe even capitalizing on on Punk's absence and saying, "See, I told you guys, I told you that guy's not here. He's a loser. He does, he always leaves when the going gets rough." And then maybe that'll create another storyline. He'll come back, he'll fight Rollins. The next thing you know, he's competing against Rhodes for the title. Who knows, right? Whatever's happening, the WWE knows how to market these kind of angles, and it's completely strategic. And that's why these kind of MMA appearances matter more than people think. They're ultimately telling fans or giving fans enough Punk to keep you guys happy, to keep him relevant without actually giving away his return or why or what the storyline will be when he does eventually return, right? So that's a difficult balance to keep, to kind of pull off. But I mean, again, the WWE has has been quite masterful when it comes to these kind of things, and they know what they're doing. So my takeaway in all this is really simple, guys. Honestly, a lot of fans are treating this story as CM Punk appearing on a UFC show and then returning at Cage Fighting Championship commentary booth. The real story is that the WWE hasn't pulled the trigger on his comeback. They're building it up. In the meantime, they've got plenty of talent that they're working with. They're going to start to develop, creating storylines around those folks. And then every week that passes will eventually make his return feel a lot bigger. The UFC Rivals appearance is interesting. I like it. The Cage Fighting Championship commentary, I think that's also interesting. I mean, they're not big headlines, but the headline is that CM Punk remains one of the few in wrestling who can disappear for months and still dominate the conversation. And when he finally does come back into the WWE, it'll be meaningful, it'll be something, and it'll be something of relevance 100%, right? So anyways, guys, that's my take on things. I just wanted to kind of give you an update on that. If you're enjoying this analysis, please smash the like and subscribe. Hit the notifications so you guys never miss a beat. Subscribe for more combat sports and pro wrestling. Please hype this video so liking this video will just send it out to as many people as possible. And look, at the end of the day, CM Punk's silence may have finally ended the biggest question that remains unanswered. Not where he's appearing next. I think we all know where he's appearing. If you want to see him, if you want to see glimpses of him, you know where to find him. But it's more about what he's promoting, right? So when the WWE decides it's time to bring him back into the spotlight, and when that happens, don't be surprised, because it could be attached to perhaps maybe one of the biggest stories in the company, right? So my question is, do you think CM Punk's return, like, do you think that'll happen straight into a title picture, or do you think the WWE should kind of keep him away from any kind of titles right now, and maybe even keeping him away from WWE longer, just to create his comeback even more bigger, right? Let me know in the comments, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. The pleasure is all mine. I can't wait to dish up the next story in our next one. So we'll see you guys next time.